Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what is happening up in the stars above for the week ahead. Today is August 12th. this, and even though the summer is like going by, it's already like feeling like fall here with the high today going to be 63. Yikes, cold. And I had to drag back out my winter, at least my pants for winter so that my legs wouldn't freeze. I'm not complaining because I love it like this, but it just reminds me that the time is flying by, and before you know it, we'll be sitting in the throes of all of the fall wonderfulness, pumpkin spice coffees and all that fun stuff. Okay, anyway, so we have an interesting week ahead of us this week. As I was looking at it yesterday, trying to plan ahead what it was that we would be talking about, I realized that we have two opposing forces really activated this week in all of our charts. So it's happening for everybody. It is also a part of that T square that we started really diving into last Friday. And it's the forces of Jupiter and coupled with Mars that are pushing us for growth and for optimism and for ambitions that we want to take action on versus Saturn, which is also in a square this week to Mars, that is pushing for limits and form and structure, contraction almost versus Jupiter's expansion. So it makes for a week where, we're really kind of being irritated by these two opposing forces in some way, shape, or form. And it's not just this week, it's literally, ongoing until we get, almost until uh, the fourth week of August. In some way or shape, we're going to be having to deal with this. So, of course, last week we broke all of this down for you. And as far as what the T square was about, if any of you have any questions left over about the T squares, please let me know, right? Because this is a huge thing that is happening. And literally, I was thinking about the as above, so below kind of tenet that astrology has. And it's actually a more spiritual sort of philosophy, as above, so below, meaning what's going on in the heavens is reflected here on the earth. What's going on in the earth or on the earth is actually reflected back in the heavens as well. So we have this connection of things that are sort of the archetypes or the models of what it is that our lives are taking on during this period of time. And during this period of time, then we're all looking at the face of in the face of contraction coming in, but also, which I can also say in a much higher vibratory level, would be focus. And the other force of expansion, which we could look at in a higher realm as evolution. So the forces of evolution and the forces of focus working seemingly at odds with one another, but to somehow keep that evolution on track, right? Keeping it moving in the right direction. The T squares show us where if you're affected by it, right? If you're feeling this irritation between growth and expansion and contraction and focus, if you're feeling that, then you're being asked during this period of time to solve that problem, right? To find a solution that breaks that irritation or that anger or that upset or that frustration, which it can be any of a number of things, right? And all of us likely are going to feel it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's something that's been ongoing in your life, maybe because of the configuration of your own natal chart and how these planets are hitting you, or maybe this is something new, right? That you're like, what in the world is happening to me? Either way you look at it, it's a time for us to grow, evolve, change, but also to do so in a very much more structured way with a plan or with a strategy, right? This is the way out of the constriction, is to follow a plan or follow that strategy. So this morning, I thought it would be kind of good for us to take a look at what is happening with the human design gates that are involved with the T square. And we'll start, with the moon as we usually do, except we already talked about the moon in Scorpio, but there's something else interesting going on there. Then we'll look at the human design gates that the for the T squares, and then on Wednesday's sort of banner day, if you will, in that Mercury retrogrades back into Leo that day, and begins the process of finishing up his retrograde, but he's not finished until August 28th, so don't get too excited. And then what does that mean for us, right? He's already been through the sign of Leo. So that already gives us a clue as to what it is the T squares might be telling us about. And then as well, Wednesday, banner day, Mars and Jupiter come into this conjunction that is active at the T squares, but is already, they're applying toward one another at this point. It's exact on the 14th. So Mars conjunct Jupiter, think big, right? Thinking big, speaking big, followed the next day by Mars in a square to Saturn, reeling it back in, bringing it back into the boundaries, bumping up, as it were, against the limits or the boundaries or the walls or the old, bumping up against the old and having to kind of look at how do we bring in the new. It's going to be such a fascinating week as we look at this. And let's start then by just quickly, I don't want to go through the whole moon in Scorpio because we did that on Friday, looking ahead for the weekend. But today, that moon comes into a square with the sun. And this is a monthly thing. So every month, the moon has its new moon conjunction with the sun. Then it encounters the first square, which is where we are now, right? We had the new moon a week ago. So we've come into the first square, which is the crisis of consciousness, where now we have to, we're really looking now at, well, what is it that I need to shift within me in order to accommodate that new moon, right? What are those intentions? What is it I need to shift? And then we'll get to the full moon a week from now, right? Next week on the 19th, the new moon, the full moon, where something gets revealed, right? That's the wake up, point. And then the next square, the closing square, will happen a week after that. And that will be the crisis of action. What is it that I need to do? And I think I have those backwards. It's the crisis of action first, then the crisis of consciousness. And each of those squares are happening every month in your chart, in your life, giving us an opportunity to understand how it is that the irritation that we feel or the frustration that we're feeling is meant to move us to the next level or to the next step. So again, these T squares or squares are not, you know, something that's here to harm you or to cause you frustration or to, well, in a way they do cause frustration, but it's not punitive. It's more like get your attention about what it is that you need to shift. Okay, so that's a big deal. Um, let's look at the gates now that we're we're talking about in terms of these T squares. By the way, let's just say a quick good morning to everybody. Hello to Amy D and Diana S. And I can't. My eyes are like crazy this morning. Tom W, good morning. He says mooning. We were talking behind the scenes about Happy Moon Day because Monday is Moon Day. And I think it was Amy said mooning. And Tom reminded me, you know what mooning means, don't you? We do. Pam Zaruba, good morning. Terry, good morning. Work is a mess, he says. Yikes. Well, you are particularly suited to helping get it straightened up. Christine Buckingham, hello. Patty, good morning. Terry says, oil spill at my desk. Oh no. Oh no. J-Lo, happy Monday to you as well. Narges, good morning. Joan Durchie, happy Monday. And for any of you back there who are not in the chat, welcome and good morning to you as well. So, all right, now let's look at these T squares in human design. And the reason I like to do this is because in astrology, we have certain meanings, right? But they seem a little broad, right? It's not like, oh, well, there we could go deeper. Don't get me wrong. We could go into a more deeper explanation of something. But I like in human design how it gives us um, this picture, if you will, of what those energies are about. And if we wanted to, we could take it one step further and go into the gene keys where we get to see the hologram or the holographic um, design of that energy at that gate or in that degree of the zodiac that reminds us that there's a shadow expression, there is a higher expression, which in gene keys we call the gift expression. Then there's also the highest expression of the energy of that particular gate. And of course, this takes us into this need for contemplation, right? I can give you this information, but I can't necessarily tell you how this is going to play out for you exactly because, first of all, I'm not looking at your chart, but secondly, um, because this is on a path of contemplation, right? It's not just like one and done. This is an ongoing sort of call to you to become more conscious in certain ways. All right. So let's start with Jupiter and Mars because they are at the apex. Remember that word, the apex, where the T square comes together and points you at the release of the opposition. In this case, the opposition was between, or is going to be between Saturn and Venus, right? So hitting our finances, our beliefs or value systems, our money in terms of how we spend what we spend or our resources, and our relationships versus Saturn over here in Pisces, which will be all about how it is that we are meant to bring things into more perspective, more focus, more foundation in the midst of a sign that is boundaryless. So the apex planet shows you or points you in the direction of your solutions, right? That's the key. There is always a solution to every opposition. It's just sometimes in a T square easier to see what that might be if you're tuning in, right? So the point at which we can solve our Saturn Venus opposition energy is through Jupiter and Mars that will be in Gemini, are in Gemini conjunct in gate 45, which gate 45 is called the gate of distribution in quantum human design. That gives you an idea. This is a money gate. So maybe it puts the focus more on the Venus part of this, Venus in Virgo, and the ability for us to reel in our finances, reeling in our economy. And we're seeing a little bit of a retraction in our economic, growth. So when we look at the gate 45, then we're seeing how is it that we want to distribute our resources, right? If we're talking about how does a government do that, it would be through, programs, through budgets and spending in various ways. But if we're talking about someone personal, you, for example, then this gate 45, which sits on the throat center, is about how do I want to share my resources? It's also a leadership gate. So it does bring up this leadership idea and especially leadership in community. How do we share of our resources, share of our time, of our gifts and our talents with the people in our communities? And it could be your community, could be your family, your household, right? Where you have, however many people in your life there. And Jupiter is an amplifier, so it amplifies everything or expands anything it touches. And Mars is adding energy, right? He is adding drive. He adds conflict sometimes or a confrontation energy to the gate 45. Now, the conjunction at the gate 45 can really signify some kind of assertive or aggressive expansion to control uh, the distribution, let's say, of information, of resources, right? Information is a resource. It's the throat center. We're talking communication, right? Communication. Potentially, it's the control of resources like time. In the throat center, it is all about the right time to speak or to share, right? Or to provide information. And it's also an energy that is a collaborative energy. The 45 works together with others, is meant to work together with others to share resources. That is its power. So then if we look at the 45, then let's I'm going to share my screen if I can. Hold on. Here we go. You guys are going to see a blank human design chart, and I'm going to hope that this is going to shift as I do things with it. I want to show you where the gate 45 is. Let me go back here to, oh, no, not there, over here. Boom. Yes, you're seeing it. Awesome. The other day it didn't seem to want to do that, but today it's doing this. Okay, so when we look at where the gate 45 is, it's here on the corner of the throat center. And in the throat center, then, where we have metabolism, where we have the sharing of something, words typically, right? We have the putting of the words to something in order to create. Like in the beginning, God said, right? There's the said, something to do with bringing it out and expressing it, brings it into being. And so here at the 45, then we have this signifying of this expansion of resources, but how do we share of those resources? So in the outer world, that might look like programs that are getting more money or programs that are having money taken away from them, or um, our income and how it is that we're spending that income. But I want you to note that if you do not have this gate in your human design defined, meaning it's not colored in, because you have the gate, but you don't maybe have it colored in, or if you do have it colored in, you're bringing this energy out with this conjunction of Jupiter and Mars, and out at the T square with the opposition between Saturn and Venus. All right, so this becomes activated in your chart. It gets colored in, right? So it becomes an energy that you don't normally have access to, maybe. Or if you do have 45 defined, now you have this very tense aspect, the T square point or the apex pointed at a gate that you already have some kind of planet or energy sitting at. So it becomes maybe more crucial for you to address how you share your resources. It becomes more crucial for you to step into leadership in some way. So it'll be interesting to see how all of you, have this playing out in your charts. Now, the other thing that is interesting is what if in your chart you have the 21 defined? Maybe the 45 is not defined, so it's white in your natal chart, but you have 21 and it's hanging here, right, on the will center, which is called the gate of control or self-regulation. This is someone who often is probably the better one to be able to regulate the flow of resources, time, money, etc. Um, but can often get into power struggles in their lives with people who might have the gate 45. So now we have the gate 45, perhaps there it is, blue. We have the 45 coming into definition, and someone with the gate 21 may be feeling very frustrated with the process of managing resources. Maybe there's another person involved that is power struggling with you over resources, that type of thing. So it can be a very interesting place in the chart. And the whole idea of the T square is to find a solution. So, how do we find the solution or the resolution of this particular problem? Okay. Now, let's take a look. I'm going to leave that I'm going to take 21 out. Bum, ba-dum. Oops. Boom. Okay. Now let's look at Saturn in this, because Saturn is over here at the 22 on the emotional center. So he's forming the base along with Venus, whom we'll also look at. But I want to look at Saturn now sitting at the gate of grace. The gate 22 is called grace, and it's located on the solar plexus. So it is an energy associated with emotions and creativity. and it is the emotional expression of beauty, of grace, of harmony, or not, right? There's always the or not here in this particular gate. Now, Saturn here emphasizes discipline and limitations and sometimes the hardships that are apparent when we're trying to express our true emotional self in social settings or in our families or in our communities, etc. So Saturn here really bringing up the need for us to be emotionally responsive as opposed to emotionally reactive. Saturn has a restrictive influence on the emotions here, right? So the emotions, and this can create a sort of serious tone or a pressured environment regarding maybe social acceptance or emotional expression. So he's part of this opposition. And then on the other side, we have Venus, who's up in the Ajna at gate 47, which is called the gate of the mindset. So the opposition is between the emotions and the mindset in particular. And so gate 47 is on the ajna. The ajna is the center for certainty. It is for thinking, right? It is associated with the realization that comes from struggle, the struggle in the mind. And it's often linked to the mental processes that we go through when we're trying to synthesize ideas into action or coming into taking ideas and understanding them. So we have chances are with the 47, it's going to show us where our minds are out of sync with our emotions or where our emotions are out of sync with our mind. And, all these things are coming together in my head this morning. It's really kind of funny because this weekend I was reading an ebook that was put out by Karen Curry Parker about um, healing. And the first thing she jumps into is a very metaphysical discussion of how we create, right? How do we as humans create? And so many times we think that we're creating because our mind is focused on something, but it's not just that, right? It's not about what we think. That's fourth dimensional. Um, we have to blend that fourth dimension with the fifth dimension of the expression of the emotions, right? A realignment of our emotional energy to come into alignment with the mind. But sometimes the mind is set on old tapes or old thinking patterns. And so in the emotion energy can't create, right? We might have this emotion of excitement around something we want to create, but if our mind is telling us, "Oh, that'll never happen," then it's not coherent and we can't create what we want to create. So it's so fascinating to watch this in play at this moment, or over these next couple of weeks, because we're having this great opportunity to really look at what it is that's up here that might be stopping us down here in the emotional center, and then stopping us from actually putting it out there in the world through the throat center. Now, Venus does soften, right? The nature of the planet Venus does kind of soften the intellectual challenges here. And then maybe we can have an easier path to focusing on thoughts that bring us peace or thoughts that bring us into alignment with our emotions. But even so, we'll have to do that through overcoming the mental or intellectual types of challenges. So it's so fascinating to see this playing out. And I'm hoping you guys are understanding. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and go back here. Questions. How's everybody doing here? Good morning, Elima and TD Hawk. Nice to see you. It's okay. Being late is good. Heading to the doctor. Oh no, hopefully everything is going to be fine. Getting your heart evaluated during a Leo transit. Leo rules the heart. Need to follow your passion, your love, your self-expression, maybe. I don't know. But all of us hope you feel better and that everything goes well at the doctor for you. Then Christine says she has defined Ajna 47, Taurus, Earth, personality side. So um, essentially, what this is saying for you then is that, Earth is the piece that grounds us. And it's often representing the thing that we have to have solid before we can get to where we want to be with the sun. So, solid mindset for you, right? Really addressing your mindset in everything because the 47 is alive in your chart, right? So, watch the mindset. And anyway, so as we move forward here, I don't see questions. So let's take a look now at the tension and the resolution of the T square. So remember the T square always, now, first of all, let me back up. Back up. In human design, we don't talk about the relationships between the gates often. In fact, I don't even remember anybody ever talking about how's this T square going to impact my human design? Or let's look at the sun moon opposition, i.e., the full moon, and how is that going to impact me? We just don't do that. It doesn't show up in human design in the same way. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at those gates that are involved in those interactions between planets and see how it is that we can move through and find a better solution. So, if you think about Saturn at the gate 22, how can we gracefully find a solution that aids us in the distribution of our gifts, our talents, our wealth, our resources, right? That's one way that we could look at it because Saturn is at the gate of grace. And then how can we do that in an emotionally graceful way, right? Making, not just ugliness about doing anything, but doing it beautifully. And then how does the changing of that emotional field and how it is that we share um, shape your new mental constructs with Venus at the gate 47? Right? So the pressure point, though, is going to be at the 45. That's where the apex is at. And Jupiter and Mars here can have significant drive and pressure to lead or to take charge of something in your world around managing resources. So, and you can almost see like everybody's having this in their charts. So does that create the pathway to power struggles if someone who isn't the one that usually manages the resources in your household, let's say, steps up and says, "Oh, hey, I'm taking over the bank account." Right? You could see how I'm not that that will happen, but it's a possibility, right? That some kind of struggle is ensuing because of someone else's thoughts, emotions, or mindset, right? Or about sharing resources. Okay. I hope that makes sense for everybody. So, what are the challenges going to be with this apex point at gate 45? Well, first of all, over assertiveness. It's Martian energy, Mars, and Mars can be very aggressive and forceful. And Jupiter and Mars coming together at that apex point in gate 45 can be a very forceful dynamic around managing resources. And it can manifest as overpowering others in an effort to take control or to lead without consensus. Remember, our human design is not authoritarian, it's democratic, right? It's about consensus, it's about moving forward with others in equality, right? Egalitarianism. The other thing is to watch out for emotional and or intellectual rigidity, right? That idea that I'm stuck in this mindset or I'm stuck in this emotion. Saturn in gate 22 it might suppress emotions, right? Saturn has that, constriction effect, and it could lead to difficulties in the context of social niceties or in how we communicate with one another. Remember, Jupiter, Mars are in Gemini. And Venus in gate 47 maybe suggests a struggle to find peace of mind um, through your resources, your leadership, and that intellectual understanding can override the emotions, or the emotions in this case can override the intellectual understanding, which could be very stifling under this particular thing. So, how do you manage this? right? And this is where I love human design because it gives us these strategies, right, that help us determine what it is that's right for us to do. And or how can we adopt a different way of being in under this kind of influence. And here, one of the strategies has to be balancing leadership qualities, leadership potential, leadership being the leader, with sensitivity. Harness Mars's very assertive energies along with Jupiter's expansive qualities to lead effectively, but while remaining sensitive to other people's emotional needs and intellectual needs. Right. So if this is playing out in a leadership way for you, being very sensitive, cultivate your own emotional expressiveness, meaning work on ways to express your emotions in the right way, appropriately, but freely and gracefully. Saturn at 22, grace in all of your social situations. And that helps counteract Saturn's restrictive influence here, right? Enhance your intellectual flexibility by being open minded. You recognize when you've come into rigid thinking or when you've downsized your mind, and be open minded and instead be more flexible in your thinking processes. Think outside of the box, allowing Venus to sort of harmonize and bring peace to those mental processes that you're going through, especially if you're being faced with challenges at this time. All right. So, focus on balancing all of the energies that are coming in. If you note in your life that you're struggling with something, step back, become a little more objective about what is the struggle entailing, and then create a strategy. Remember, in human design, you have a strategy based on your type. Right? If you're a generator type or a manifesting generator type, you are always responsive to what shows up in your outer world, opportunities or challenges or people or emotions, all those things that show up in the outer world. And then your strategy is then to feel it in your body. Does this feel like the right answer? Does this feel like the right next step? That kind of thing. If you are a projector in human design, you're waiting for the invitations in life that, show you, align you with what is your right next step. And that can come from somebody saying, I really need somebody to do XYZ for me. Do you know of anybody? And you happen to be the person that can provide that. That's an outright invitation. The other thing is to pay attention, to where source energy is inviting you in to participate, to lead, to manage, to guide others on their journeys. If you're a manifester, you are a creative being. Your ideas find their wings in the will that you have to create, right? Or to initiate, not necessarily to keep on, but your strategy is ideas equal actions, right? That's you're a just do it kind of person. And if you are a reflector, if it's a big thing that is coming up in your life, something big that you have to make a decision on, it's best to wait the cycle of the lunar or to wait through the lunar cycle of 28 days to see what is really true for you. Okay. Did I confuse people? Um, and it would be a little more confusing to take this one step further because I hope all of you have a copy of the Gene Keys. And at any point, you can look up Gene Key 45. Gene Key 45 is the same as saying Human Design Gate 45. And in the Gene Keys, you would see that the shadow of the 45, that's the apex point of Jupiter and Mars, or where Jupiter and Mars are at the apex point of the T square. The shadow is dominance. In the gift, it's synergy, coming together energetically. Syn meaning together, SYN, not SIN. Synergy, energy, right? Working together. And in the highest expression, the Siddhic or Siddhi expression, it's communion. Think about that for a minute. And it is the idea of cosmic communion, right? Working as a partner with the divine, with your higher self, with God, if you want to go there, with the universe, if you want to go there, right? communion with the cosmos. And it is a deeper dive for sure, but it gives you a lot to chew on, right? To really think about by going into this little deeper expression. Okay, Elima, hanging Mars 12 personality. Mars is at the 12 for you. The 12 is an interesting gate because that means it's connected to where Saturn's transit is right now at the gate 22. Let's take a look at that real quickly. Um, because remember how we were talking about it up here, if you guys had the 21 hanging, how that would look. Well, if you have, I'm going to fill this in, if you have the 12 with any planet, in this case Mars, you're already someone who's wanting to speak. Maybe sometimes what you do is you speak boldly and then find out you should not have spoken. Or sometimes maybe you hang back and don't speak when you should have spoken. There seems to be a 12 is a caution gate, right? And now it's connected with the 22. So this whole channel of openness is defined for you. So being open to recognizing Alima, I'm not sure what your name is, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong, is for you to be very aware about mood before you speak. In that, is this the right timing for me to speak? Is this the right people for me to speak? Am I in the right mood? It's very moody energy, right? So you might feel like I'm on a high and I can say everything I want to say and it comes out right. But if I feel like I'm in this low and I try to speak, it bombs, right? So you want to be careful during this period of time. Okay. I hope that makes sense for you. But then again, that gives us all a really good idea of how it is these gates work, how they turn on more energies for us that can become kind of uh, difficult, challenging places, or can actually ease even some things. So, all right. So let me see what else. Was part of a group gallery. This is TD Hawk show this weekend. Show was a success. Loved it. Created a floral piece, but a talk walk in the sun heat Saturday was not thought through in its execution by the guide. So that was a struggle. These are the things, right? And TD Hawk says, I'm a projector. Hello, Jolie. I need that book. This is called The Gene Keys. Now, I got mine back in 2013 or 2014. So this is an old cover. It looks a little different now, but essentially it's by the same person, Richard Rudd. Just, yeah, there's his name, Richard Rudd, and just Google, Gene Keys or go to genekeys.com and buy it or Amazon. But I want you to realize this isn't a book you read cover to cover. This is a resource, right? This is a book that you use to understand yourself. This is a contemplation tool, right? So you use this when you want to know more, when you want to get deeper. Okay. Yes, you're most welcome. We all have so much to learn, honey. It's the way it is, right? Now let's talk about the other T-square and the other giant elephant on the table, which is the T-square at the full moon, which is just a week from today. So we're already gathering up steam toward, this energy as well, even though the sun is in Leo. It's already, drilling down the Leo energies in our lives. The moon is in Scorpio. It's not anywhere near yet to getting to Aquarius. So it's not fully formed yet, but we can still talk about it in terms of what happens when we have a full moon, that the apex point of a T-square is pointing at Uranus, right? The planet of the unexpected, of revolution, of rebellion, of contrarianness, of uniqueness, eccentricity, awakening, surprises, shock. Lots of good words that we can use with the planet of Uranus. Now, the T-square configuration comes because of the opposition of the sun and the moon. The sun will be at the gate 29, the gate of commitment, of saying yes, right, to the right things, not just saying yes to everything, but saying yes to the right thing. That then opens up the commitment pathway. And then the moon is at the gate 30, which is on the emotional center. And the gate 30 is called the gate of passion. Now, that is a red flag gate in human design. So the moon is already at a trigger for all of us, right? That's a trigger gate, meaning what we have in the gate 30 is this need, this want, this desire to really express ourselves, to create something of ourselves in the world, right? To show our stuff, to strut our stuff. The gate 30 is called the gate of passion. And when you have commitment opposing passion, what we tend to do is to try to solve this problem, this opposition. We kind of throw spaghetti out there and we just like start doing lots of different things, saying yes to everything potentially, to be able to find an avenue for expression of our passion. Well, that is the exact wrong thing to do, right? Because your passion, you know, is more specific than that, perhaps. I mean, I have a passion for astrology, but my real passion is teaching, right? Teaching you all about astrology. So I'm dialing it in a little more. So, what are you passionate about? And how do you express that passion in a way that is a committed, devotional almost path? Instead of leading you to half-heartedness, which is the opposition here could be that we are committing to too many things, and then we can only half-heartedly participate in anything in our lives. And the point, the apex, points at Uranus, and Uranus is in the gate 8 right now, the gate of contribution. So the setup is actually providing a dynamic that is about realigning ourselves, that our contribution comes from expressing our true passions in the world and doing that by saying yes to the right things for us, which means you need to learn your type and your strategy and your authority in order to be saying yes to the right things. Okay. So let's look at Uranus at gate 8 a little bit deeper here. Yeah, we have time. Gate 8 is also, let's do it in the presentation mode so you can actually see. Mhm. Okay, so let me take away this T-square info. And yeah, we'll take that one away. And we'll take this one away. There we go. Now, why won't that go empty? Okay, fine, whatever, stay there. So the gate 8 is on the throat center. Oh, well, that's why, because I needed the gate 8. So here is where the planet Uranus is, and this is a throat center energy, which means it has a voice. So the apex point is at a voice, and it's the voice of contribution. It is the voice that says, this is what I want to contribute to the world or to my community, to my nation, to my family, for me, right? It's the gate of contribution. And then we'll have the sun at the gate 29, which is right here on the sacral. So it's a very activated energy because it's on the sacral, which is the center of doing, right? And being. It is very powerful. It is active. It is bold, right? It is the activated energy. And the moon at the gate 30 over here on the solar plexus. So we have the solar plexus activated, we'll have the sacral activated, and we'll have the throat center activated during this period of time. So the gate 8 Uranus says focus on making a contribution to the world that is uniquely yours. It's your voice and it's your creativity. It's your innovation, right? And Uranus here amplifies the desire for us as individuals to express ourselves in unique ways, unique and authentic ways. But sometimes that comes from unexpected changes or sudden breakthroughs in how you express your identity or your passions or your creativity. And sometimes because this is a Taurus gate, Taurus is an energy that can sometimes get stuck. We get in this flow and we think that expressing ourselves has to come in a certain, in this case, right, in this T square. We think that expressing ourselves is the way that we've been expressing ourselves all along, and that there's nothing wrong with it. It's not broken, so why do I need to fix it? But deep inside, you're also feeling this scritchy tension energy that's telling you that something's got to give, something's got to change. But the reluctance to change is the problem. So a planet like Uranus comes along and that tension breaks, right? And we have opportunities then to be more aligned with our passion and more aligned with the expression of our creativity. So it suggests that these unexpected changes that are being thrust upon us, or we could call them, instead of unexpected changes, let's call them innovative impulses, right? They're central to resolving the tension of the full moon, right? That's created by the opposition of the sun and the moon. The sun saying, well, what do I commit my time, my energy, my resources to? And the moon saying that, to your passions, dummy. You're going to put those commitments to your passion. But there's the tension. And the tension sometimes can be about, well, what is my passion? Right? I hear this often in my clients, is that I don't know what my passion is, right? Or I don't know how to express my passion in the world. So here's where innovation comes to the rescue. Now, gate 29, being part of the sacral center, is all about saying yes to life's commitments, engaging with the opportunities and the challenges in a wholehearted way. Right? If you say yes, you're not just like placating and, pretending that you're going to do something. You're actually all in, right? This is the energy of all inness. And the sun's presence here really illuminates the importance of your commitments, of being very clear about what you are going to spend your vitality on. Where are you going to dedicate yourself to? So this gate requires wisdom in what you say yes to, right? It governs your power, it governs the responsibility of saying yes or no. And if you don't know how to say yes or no according to your type and strategy and your authority, you might find yourself saying yes to everything and then finding that you don't have the time, the energy, the resources to commit. And then you're only half heartedly engaged, or you find yourself in the uncomfortable position of having to come back, right? And withdraw your commitment. So be very aware of what you're spending your commitment on. And then the moon in the gate 30 is passion. And as I said, this is a red flag gate in human design, because anybody who has the gate 30 defined in their chart by any planet, this amps up the energy of desire and want and passion. And used incorrectly, of course, passion can lead you to just leaping into and out of things and literally leave a disaster in its wake in your life, right? Of things started, not finished. And unless you're a manifester, you're really designed to commit to something and create something. So the emotional energy of the gate 30 here can create a sort of seesawing effect with emotions that are strongly impacting your decision or influencing your decisions and your commitments. So the moon also here is wise in terms of is creating a path of wisdom, perhaps, um, for you to truly to find what truly is your desire or your passion, and then commit that emotional energy appropriately. Often this can feel a real high energy and a real low energy, like we're on some kind of roller coaster of highs and lows. And depending in your own personal chart, how your human design is set up, if you have a defined energy here on the solar plexus, this can just add to that emotion. If you, like me, I have the gate 30 already defined by, I think it's my Mars that defines this gate, then now I'm adding the energy of the full moon on this, right? So it amps it up. And if you're someone who doesn't have this gate normally, this might be a great time for you to tap into your passions and then realign your decision making to say yes to the correct things for you, not for someone else, but for you. Okay. So there's tension in this. Again, this is a shorter T square because it's only activated during the full moon. And it points to fundamental tensions between your commitments, your emotional desires and passions, and how these get expressed uniquely or innovatively into the world, right? So the pressure is at the gate 8, right here. The contribution. The resolution involves you embracing your uniqueness, your perhaps unconventional way of looking at things, the contributions there that reflect the true self. That's the idea. And it may require you to break away or break out of the more traditional path that you've been on, or it might make you express yourself in unexpected ways. Right. So the challenge in this T square, if I had to distill it down, is going to be between desire and duty. Right. And remember, this is also juxtaposed against a Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus T square on the same darn day. Right. It's all hitting us at one time. The Saturn involved T square opening up already at this point in time. So dragging out a little bit longer than the full moon. And also the unpredictability of Uranus here in that full moon time can lead to sudden changes or disruptions, right? Disruption energy. But sometimes it's disruption that we need in order to shake us out of the old, right? That's so while these changes are potentially innovative and inventive and leading us to express our passions in a new way, it can also be unsettling. So, right? How do we manage this T square then? Because I want to know. So you're going to balance commitments and passions. You're going to strive to find that balance between saying yes to the right things versus being willing to say no to the wrong things. And the wrong things are the things that you're not really truly passionate about, right? That are just maybe, sort of, yeah, that would be kind of nice, but don't commit yourself to them, okay? Embrace innovation. Embrace all of the things, the potential that you could be if you just were different, or if you just stopped being stuck, right? If you got yourself out of those old paradigms. Be flexible, be open minded, prepare for unexpected changes, right? Allow the universe to, bring you something of an unexpected nature, and be flexible. And the new experiences will help you maybe navigate your life with ease, right? And so forth. So the T square really presents us with this opportunity to explore, to balance our commitments, our passions, and our unique contributions to the world by focusing on integrating then these aspects of your life, passion and saying yes and committing myself with the potential of Uranus changes, then you'll find yourself on a path of personal growth and really being innovative in how you express yourself out there in the world. So, wow, that was a lot. Now, uh, Christine, sorry, not Becky, does defined root and gate 41 relate to that 30? Oh, yes, it does. Because if you have an open gate 30, Christine, meaning it's white, and a defined 41, which is the opposite side of that channel or of that gate, you now have a complete channel, the channel of imagination, the the channel of committing to some new vision. This is very visionary energy for you, in other words. And while it's short-lived, you could be inspired to do something new, to really break out of a stagnant pattern perhaps that you've been in. But just remember, say yes to the right things for you, not the not everything and not the wrong things. Okay. Um J-Lo, OMG, I have Lilith on my unconscious at 30.5. So J-Lo, I give you permission to live your passion. That's what you need with the Black Moon Lilith sitting there. You're looking for freaking permission to live your life according to you. to do what you want to do, to live from a passion, to instigate a passion. So I give you permission for that. J-Lo, MC 29. Ironically, I have 12 ascendant with 22 culture. So you're being lit up all over the place, J-Lo, it sounds like. What sign will Uranus be in? He is in Taurus. And what sign is the full moon in again? The moon is in Aquarius and the sun is in Leo. So we have a Leo Aquarius opposition, and both of those signs square Taurus, which is where Uranus is. J-Lo said, I just said I was making a schedule. Awesome. Karen, what's that? What did you say? Karen Curry calls it the channel of fantasy and desire, because it is. But here's the thing. Remember the gate 41, Christine and J-Lo and everybody else out there, is the gate of the human design new year. It's the gate where we have to have this vision, this imagination, this fantasy of what could be. And without that, we can't create, right? If you cannot imagine something, you cannot create it, because first of all, you wouldn't even know that you could create it. But anything that comes into your imagination is a call from the universe that this could be in your 3D real live experience, if only you take it from imagination into an action, right? Acting on the imagination energy. And that imagination energy works best when it is aligned with your passion, right? The gate 30. And even if you don't have gate 30 defined, Christine, usually, it doesn't mean you don't have gate 30, right? You have it. You have that gate. It's just open. So your passions may be a little more hard to pin down. They may be more ruled by, people that you're around or that you talk to or that you live with. So finding your true passion becomes the evolutionary impulse for you. And that's so possible then during that full moon, because boom, it's in your face. It's there. It's being defined, right? It's being defined emotionally for you at the very least through the moon, and sending off that impulse to that gate 41 that says, if I can imagine it, I can create it. But now I just need to make a plan or take the steps or commit my energies appropriately. That's the other part, because the sun at the 29 says, what am I saying yes to? What am I really committing to? Okay. Ha. JLo says, I'm always in some fantasy, yet it's spot on when I dig for it. Good stuff. Now, quickly, we only have 3 minutes before 9. Mercury is retrograding this week back into Leo. That is something current. What we were just talking about is really playing out in the bigger behind the scenes energy. But when Mercury retrogrades back into Leo, then what we have is focus going back to our self-expression, going back to our hearts, right? Going back to what's unique about us and the expression then of our individuality, and then communicating that through art, through words, through dance, through action, through acting, through creation. In the real world, in the physical world. But remember, this is Mercury in retrograde. So we might have to, wait a little bit. We might have to slow things down a titch in the creative mode, meaning we might have to reevaluate that creative energy. What about reevaluating your creative projects? During the retrograde phase, we might reconsider how it is that, or maybe we'll reconsider returning to a project that we thought about earlier. And maybe we had to put it on hold for some reason. And it's an excellent time to revisit those things, right? When the Mercury retrogrades back into Leo. Reassess your communication style. Are you really saying what you want to say? Leo Mercury is really going to promote a more bold, expressive type of communication, right? Being more bold and being more, seen, heard, right? So that can also lead to miscommunications and misunderstandings when Mercury is retrograde. So you really need to refine what you want to say or what you're thinking And then how is that going to relate to what I'm saying before you say it? So you're slowing things down a little bit. And then also taking time to reflect on how you want to be a leader and show up in the world, or how you want to use your authority. Not everybody has to be a leader, but how do you want to use your authority in the world to? So this could bring questions about your roles in as a leader or not, or how it is that you stand as an authority in your own field. So Mercury retrograde here could be a little difficult, but also very impactful for helping you to realign, reassess, reevaluate, reimagine your self expression, right? That Leo part of you. We didn't get to Mars conjunct Jupiter exactly, but of course, we've been sort of talking about this all along. This is also exact on Wednesday. So, this is that Jupiter Mars alignment that is still activated at the T square. So, we have this boom point coming on Wednesday, and it can be very impactful in our being able to be more confident in how we speak or in how we show up in the world, doing what we love. And then as well, this week we had, there was one other, oh, Mars. Oh, this is the other issue, right? We have on Wednesday, we have Mars conjunct Jupiter, which is all about growth, expansion, ambition, and drive, right? And then we have the next day where Mars squares Saturn, which then makes us come back in. Right now, we have to be in some kind of box, or some kind of alignment, or some kind of boundaries, or some kind of limits, restrictions, in order to move forward with those and those great ideas, right? So it could be irritating because we have this very expansive energy, but then the very next day, we have this energy that causes caution, wants us to go deeper, or introduces delays or challenges to what it is that we want to do, which can create, of course, frustration, right? Mars being held back is very frustrating energy. So, this is why I show the name of the show this morning, Irritatingly Expansive Week. It's like the joke, right? Is like, oh yeah, we're growing, we are expanding, everything's going great, and then the very next day we come into the wall, right? Or we hit the edge, and we have to decide what decisions to make to get that edge out further, or to break down the wall, the barrier, or is it better to stay in the barrier? It's a big week when you think about it energetically. All right. Um, that is it for me this morning, guys. I need to get going. I think I can draw one card. What should I draw? Who calls to me this morning? Okay. A Dreamweaver's card. That's what we're going to pull. The Dreamweaver's Oracle by Colette Baron Reed. And that is, because everything that we do in the world, our passions unlock with the dream. And then the dream needs to have action taken on it in order to bring it into the 3D physical world. And the card says, what the sunbeams have to show. Card number 18. That's a wildly wacky looking card, isn't it? What the sunbeams have to show. Let's see what that means for us. I don't think we've pulled that card before, neither on air or in my own personal readings. The essential meaning here is gentle illumination on things needed in order to progress. Truth revealed when you are ready. Curiosity, a flicker of an important idea. There are times in life when you get momentary glimpses of possibilities, and you know that if you don't act on them right away, they'll disappear like fireflies in the night. Yet, like soft sunbeams flickering on the surface of still water, the awareness of those possibilities is nonetheless soothing and comforting. They serve to remind you of the magic of the natural world, and also the impermanence, of things. They come to capture your attention. Something is flickering in your awareness now. There is some idea, some niggling thought, some intuitive tingling calling for your attention. Don't discard or deny it. This is the spark of inspiration, the spark of passion, asking for you to follow it into a greater radiance. What? These words are fantastic. Now is the time for exploration, for gaining clarity as the important pathways to your destiny are being illuminated and celebrated. Ask to be shown, and it will be done. What the sunbeams have to show is your next step forward, never revealing the entire staircase. That's the frustrating part. Just one step at a time, but follow the light and trust in the divine. This is the brilliant way of the highest good. Fabulous card. I'm glad I took the time to pull it. And that is it for me this morning, guys. Take care. I will see you on Friday with Pia and Cullen, who are going to be with me this week. And we'll talk more about some of the energies that are applying for us astrologically over the weekend. Take care. Bye for now.